Fantastic. Okay. Okay. So big organizations and government entities were only having these kind of things. Okay. So it was not accessible to everyone. But slowly what he has done is since this tool is very much useful and there are a lot of research and development was happening in the universities and people need some sort of like companies are who are developing the softwares, they are charging millions and millions of dollars. There was less open source kind of thing, so he contributed it as the software whatever he developed, which is used for what do you say for fulfilling his automation tool creation, and named it as a Python. Why he named it as a Python means it was some very interesting. His favorite uh, uh, TV show Monty Python Circus. So he just named it with that because he wants to have some sort of name from his favorite thing. So he just named it as Python. Doesn't have anything to do with like the symbol or anything. Okay, the symbols and all came after like it was completely drained into the uh, open system. Okay, so he gave it for free, completely free. Okay, so imagine if you'd have actually paid it for something like as a some company like Microsoft or something who are or Microsoft or Apple who are very good during those days, he would have made millions of dollars, but he didn't do that. So we should be very grateful for him that the contribution what he has done for the um, this society. Okay, okay. So uh, nowadays, if you are not a programmer, I will always recommend, or if you guys are also someone comes and asks you that what is the best programming language to start, then you can don't hesitate to tell them like go ahead with Python because it's the best and formalized format of now as a foundational programming language for anyone who is trying to start means for the beginners. Okay, so don't hesitate to tell them that to use it. Okay, so and I would like to know there are different kinds of programming languages. So before we touch upon different kinds of programming languages, earlier the programming languages are basically not the high level programming languages. There are they are predominantly assembly level programming. Means like machine learning languages. Okay, what does machine learning like? What does it mean by machine learning? Okay, let's see with some small example. Let me open the Paint or annotation. I'll take it. Mhm. Yes, I'll take an annotation. Genes. Okay, let me take it up. Okay, whiteboard. Guys, you are seeing my whiteboard?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So now, see, whenever you, I mean, like the initial phases, if you take, maybe I can say the actual computing power it came into the human hands. I say it as like they say like it was there from 19, I mean 1890s, something like that. But I'll say only when we have the diodes and capacitors and the vacuum tubes came into the picture, then I can figure it out as like 1950, where we have extensively started using them. Okay, during that time, what it used to happen is this is some kind of you say a section, some kind of processing section. This processing section, okay, never changed right from the day when we started using the computer age, okay, till now in the beginning of 21st century. Means now like we are almost 2020, but till now anything has to happen in the processor. What does processor does is, okay, it gets the instructions whatever you give, okay, to this, okay, and performs some calculations, okay, and produces some output, okay. So what is the input for any kind of processor? It is instruction. Okay. This becomes the core thing for us. Okay. So how you feed the instruction to the processor? Okay. Now I am teaching you guys. Okay. I have a voice which is uh, coming, I mean, like getting into my mic and received it into my machine, processed at my processor, and sent across over the internet, and received at your machine, and processed at your processor, and received at your speaker. So the flow of the information is nothing but the type of instructions you are feeding it to the processor. Okay. So it can be anything. The input can be an instruction, can be anything. It can be arithmetic operations, or it can be some kind of logical operations or something, some instructions. We don't need to get into them now. Okay. But what we are giving is we are giving the instructions to the processor, and processor is processing it in, producing some output and giving it to us. Okay. So these instructions, earlier it was directly whichever the language that processor understand, that particular language they used to write. The programmer has to literally whatever there in their mind, okay, they have to literally get converted into some machine code, and it will be fed to it. Processor, what it does, it reads the each instruction and process it. Okay. Now, does it whatever you write, whatever you give as an input, will it be like uh, in the form of assembly language or high level language or something like that? Okay. So that particular information, whatever you're feeding, has to ultimately get converted to zeros and ones before you feed it to the processor. Okay. Anything, just remember this one thing alone. All the instructions, whatever you write, has to get converted into the understandable language of the processor. Okay. That will be a zeros and ones. Okay. This is actual machine learning language. Whatever machine understand is only zeros and ones. Okay. And there we cannot have anything feeding it to, like we cannot create a program with zeros and ones, right? Correct, right? That's what we do, right? We cannot write anything like zeros and ones and directly feed it to the computer. So we have to find an easiest and alternative way where we can write something and it should directly map it to some kind of instruction, okay, which is in the form of zeros and ones. If I say A, it will be like, oh, 01000C. Okay. If I say 10, oh, it is something 001 000 something. Okay. Then I can feed this data to the processor and processors follow it. If I say I give A and it will take it, and then I'll say addition, then it will 010 something. Okay. And it takes it, and then 10 I give it and it takes it, and whatever the sequence of instructions I give, then it will perform the action and it will give me A plus B output as something. Okay. So everything whatever you're giving it to the system, okay, is not direct machine data. You are giving it in some sort of very human understandable language format, and some converters are there in place which converts them into the binary and gives or feeds it to the processor, and processor performs the action whatever you have instructed there. Okay, guys, still here it is clear for you guys, everyone? Is it clear for you guys? No issues, you can unmute and say.
Yes, it is clear.
Okay, fine. Let's see. Okay. Now, I just want to show you again the same thing what we had here. If you see the beginning of the programming languages, and even in some sort of like chip level or some kind of microprocessor or integrated circuit design, people are still following this programming language. Okay, this is called as assembly level programming language. These are the instructions that you are going to give to process them. Absolutely, I don't have any clue what it is, but I'm just telling you guys, this was so hard to understand for us, being humans. Even only the people who are really into it will able to understand it. So assembly language is not for like non-beginners or uh, like who doesn't have any kind of programming experience. Okay, they cannot make out of it anything out of the code it was written. We used to give the code in this like sub-32 processor and all. It used to take like what is sub-32 pros, and then it will feed it to the some kind of what do you say kind of middle things, and then they'll get converted to the machine code like into zeros and ones and will be fed it to the processor. Okay, all these things, these instructions will get converted into the machine learning and not machine learning, machine language. Okay, and they'll be fed it to it. But if you see this particular thing, one more, this particular slide, I mean, like, are you able to make something out of it? At least something, correct, right? At least something. Okay, something it is saying some class, correct, right? Something it is saying something public, static void main something. Okay, it is something. Okay, something we are trying to print out. We are trying to print something, correct, right? These are like programming languages from Java and C, where they are giving some sort of like hello world, correct, right? Okay. So how many instructions it took? That also you remember, like it took, if you see Python class hello as one line, open brace, second line, public static void main, three lines, open brace, four lines, five, six, seven. Okay. Some seven lines. Here also almost the same, some 4 to 5 lines. You can see. Okay. If you see, this is the place where the we have some sort of high level programming languages that started coming in. Okay, and uh, predominantly you can say it as C. Okay, during that particular time. Okay, after like once people are fed up with machine learning, sorry, machine level programming, using like coding with assembly languages, then they started coming up with some high level programming like C, which was very much reliable for them, like to write the code, whichever it used to take uh, kind of month of code, now it takes only a day or two. Okay, so it significantly reduced the project costs, and now they can deliver more efficient programs in less amount of time. But how does it happens? Okay, so in a simplest way, this happens like this. Uh, Let me take, uh, yeah, let me take uh, annotation. Okay, okay. Let me. How it happens is now this is the program. Okay, till here. Okay, the program. What I'll do is I will give it to some intermediary body. Okay, which is called as. Okay, before to that, how many of you know that when we write a program, what is the next thing we do to get it executed in C? Anyone can answer it, not an issue. Anyone?
Compile the code.
Perfect. Compile. Okay. Then next, only compile will do.
No, execute as well.
Perfect. Okay. So we are following two steps, correct, right? Compilation and execution. Okay. So what happens? during the compilation, what happens to the execution. Okay, I just want to explain for the people. Okay, so the compilation, what it does is it takes the source code, means the program, whatever the programmer has written, and feeds it to the compiler. Okay, what does the compiler does is you are whatever the um, whatever the like your processor has to understand. Okay, you have to provide it in understandable language for it. Correct, right? So what the compiler does is all your program, whatever the program you have written are syntactically correct or not, means all the rules whatever you have to follow this program to get executed, whether you followed it or not, will be taken care by the compiler. Okay, and identifies any syntactical and semantics and everything, it will identify. Okay, and if there are any issues, okay, then it won't get uh, what do you say, it will throw you some errors until you fix them. Correct, right? Then once if your program doesn't have any issues, okay, then the compilation gets successful and some kind of other file gets created. Correct, right? Am I correct or not?
Yes, Rajesh. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever the code, source code you have written, first the errors will be checked and it will get converted into some sort of OBJ file, say example. Okay. So, okay, you don't consider it is not context of our this thing, some kind of other format it will get converted. Okay. Forget about it. One another file format it will get converted. Now when you have written the code and you identify no errors are there and everything is successful, that's why it created one another file format. Okay, out of this particular thing. Okay, whichever the source code you have written. Okay, now when you do alt R, correct, right? That is what we used to do in during our college days. Correct, right? Alt R, which will run the program. Okay, so that what it will do is when you do that, it will go and take this whatever the code it is saved here. Okay, whichever the converted different converted file will be given, okay, to the processor. Okay, why? Because earlier whatever the machine level instruction code you are writing, okay, that used to come here, okay, and used to become zeros and ones and gets processed at the processor. Okay, now whatever the code you are writing, that is, if there are no issues, then it will be immediately given to some kind of, okay, this one is like it converts into some kind of machine level language, machine level language, machine level language. Okay, okay, uh, just a minute, 1 minute. Now the first step is compilation. Any C program or Java program, it happens like this, and it will get converted into some machine language, and we are feeding. When you run it, it will get run in the processor and gives you the output on the screen. Guys, still here everything is clear? That's why we'll get .obj in C and .class file gets created in Java. Just for your information, that's it. You have here .c file and .java file. Just an input, whatever I just want to tell you, right? Two steps are here. Okay, what we are doing is we are just taking a program whichever we have written and giving if everything is successful, it will get converted into one more file format. Okay, and that particular file format is something which machine level code where the processor can understand it. Okay, so that particular file when you want to execute it, okay, so Compilation is just checking the syntactical errors. Okay. But here something machine level code is for running them. Means like I have put helloworld.com. Okay. Helloworld.com, I want to display it on the screen. Whether I have written it properly or not will be checked at the compiler. But to display it on the screen, like when I say Alt R and try to R, when I run the program CR Java program, then what I'll get, this particular file get executed in the processor and displays the output onto the screen. Till here, everyone is clear? We have two-step
Yes.
process. Okay,
Yes, Radha.
fine, fantastic, guys. Let me stop this annotation. Okay, and let's share the screen again. Okay, now you guys know that there are two different steps are there. These are the high-level programming languages. Internal, again, they used to have some sort of machine learning code. It has to get converted to make the processor understandable. But the number of lines of code what you have seen sometime before, and the same lines of code for the same output, is it required in Python? No, absolutely not. For writing the hello world programming in Python, you need just one line. Instead, in CNC Java, it requires more than 3 or 4 lines. Okay. Just remember, it is so simple. It is not so complex. Python is very, very, very simple language. If Python would have been so much tough, it wouldn't have become so much popular in the first place. Okay, since it is the very simplest language, the adoption rate of Python was skyrocketed during 1995 to till now. It was an exponential explode. Okay, okay, fine. There are different kinds of what do you say logos you see for different kinds of operating system. You see iOS like this, PHP like this, and Ruby and Rails like this, all these things. Okay, JS, this is Microsoft.NET, Perl. Same way we have Python like this. One official logo that you have to remember. Okay. Then what are the features of Python? Whether you are aware of it or not. Okay. Whatever the programming languages we have, okay, the programming languages that even today we are using, most of them are high-level programming languages, except a few programming languages which they, like if you say completely, like they work on the board and where it requires for you to test the board and all, it requires machine level coding, and so that particular thing we are just keeping it aside. When we say all programming languages, means like our day-to-day life, when they are direct impact on our day-to-day life, that kind of programming languages. Okay, so those languages are all high-level programming languages, almost all of them. Okay, you take it C, C++, Java, Python, Perl, Shell. Okay, all things. Okay, all are high-level programming language. Okay, so how it becomes so much powerful? Okay, what he has done is, when he has developing it, he found very interesting things during like 19 what do you say 1989. Okay, during that particular time, you don't have Java. I'm absolutely, these things, it should be clear for you. That time there was no Java. Okay, just this point you remember. Why, I will come to you in some time. Okay, there is no Java. Okay, what he has done is, there was C programming language, and he saw that the when, as like us, when we are using during our colleges, sometimes we used to write some functions, correct, right? C related programs, most of them are functions only. Okay, that is like pointers and functions. These are the only two things we used to do. pointers, it is like more low level. But for high level, like if you are writing some program, like something to create a shopping cart or something like that, yes, definitely you have to use a function. So that time, uh, like C was providing the best in class function related features. Okay, what he has done, C, I can adapt some features like whatever the C they have developed, the functioning thing, I'll grab that particular thing and I'll implement in Python. So he adapted all the functional features that are available in C and has kept it in his new programming language. He hasn't named it yet. Okay. Guido van Ransom hasn't named it yet. Okay. And then what he has done, he has taken C++ object-oriented programming concept, because OOPS, whenever we say OOPS means object-oriented programming. Why it is an OOPS? Like it helps us in reusing some kind of objects again and again. This will be very interesting concepts right from the, like after this particular class itself, we are going to use it in a effective way, in a most easiest way you can understand. Okay, so don't worry guys, just looking at object oriented concepts, you need not to worry about, oh, this might be something more tricky or something. It is nothing like that. We will be just going to see the benefits by looking at small examples without writing a single line of a code. Okay, we are going to see them right from the like NAS onwards. Okay, so object-oriented concepts, they have taken it from C++. But what is the best object-oriented programming language nowadays? It is the Java. Why can't they have not taken it? That is the reason I said to remember that date. When was Java actually released? It is in 1995. Prior to that, there was no Sun Microsystem and no Java. Might be the name was there, Sun Microsystem, but it is not officially released it to the market. Okay, so people not even aware of it. So, but our Guido van Rossum has actually started developing it in 1989. So during that particular time, the only object-oriented programming language is available is C++, C++. So he has taken object-oriented concepts from there. Okay. Now we are seeing a lot of scripting. There is a lot of scripting power is there. What is meant by scripting power? Scripting power is like I want to interact with the system. I want to access a file within the system, and I do some system related activities. Like I want to run a backup. I want to delete some files. I want to update some information like getting the data of all the file names within a folder. This kind of things are all based on the scriptings. That time only Perl and Shell was there, and he took advantage of those two programs and adapted all the features that are in the scripting, Perl and Shell scripting, and he has integrated those features uh, in Python. Okay, and anything, if it is like, if you if it is scalable one, then only it is useful for anyone, for a bigger projects. Okay, if it is like single file or making like managing a project, okay, if that sort of uh, the flexibility is not there, then how much ever very good programming language he develops, it will be useless. So you need to have like managing the modules. Like I have one module here which takes care of pulling off the say for example system information, and another module is there where I can actually use which pulls the data from another systems, and I can use both the what do you say, leverage the outputs of those two modules in third module. So this kind of what do you say, modules to be there for bigger projects. That time this kind of flexibility was available in modular 3 programming language. So he used it. So for example, what I say is I want to uh, work on Excel related things. Okay, where I want to extract the Excel, some parts of data that are present in the Excel. Okay. For that, uh, does it require for me to now write entire a software code that requires for me to how I can reach a specific location of the Excel and grab the data, and then how I can process it and display it in the output in the Python? No, it is not required. What you have to do is you have to just install a module, Excel module. There are different hundreds of Excel modules that are available in Python. You can take whichever your favorite one, and you can use that module in your this thing, and you can make use of fulfilling your requirement. Same way, I want to work with some kind of, say, for example, web-related data. Automatically, it has to identify the some kind of scraping and all. Okay, so how I can do that? I can use some kind of modules I can import into my Python programming. I can use it. And I just want to do scientific related what do you say, kind of calculations I want to do. So you can just install some module into your Python, and you can import that into your programming language. Then you can use it all the scientific related what do you say, calculations, whatever you want to do in the program. So moduling in that particular, like before 1989, modular 3 is used to do such kind of things. So the same thing, the same functionality and features he has implemented in Python, and so now it has become a proper package of all the things required for the next gen people who wants to use a programming language for all sort of these things. So now with all these features, it has become so much powerful. Okay, you name it, in whichever field you take it, Python is used. Which is the only programming language 99% of the people are teaching in big data? It is Python. Machine learning, it is Python. Automation, it is Python. Web development, Django and all, it is Python. Okay, so I suggest you take it more seriously, that the Python is not just an automation or just a programming language. If you learn this programming language, you have the passport to get into any field you want that are currently as hot in the market. Okay, just remember that. Okay, now what are the features of Python? As I said, the first and foremost thing is its simplicity and easy to read or write the programs. Okay. Once again, I just want to tell you guys, if it wouldn't have been so much easy or simple programming language, it wouldn't have become so much popular. First, remember that. Okay. Then you hardly have not more than 33 keywords to remember. Using them only, you will write entire program. You might be like, depends upon the type of version you install, it can be like 3 or 4 keywords, more or less. That's it. Okay. So when you compare it with other programming languages, okay, you will be writing less number of code, because if you just sometime before we have seen, for writing the hello world program, it took nearly 7 lines of code in Java, but that is not the case with Python. It took, sorry for that. It took just only 1 line of code. Okay. I hope you understand how much simple it is. Okay. What happens with that? As I said, it will reduce the number of lines of code what you write. That means the number of hours it takes. That means the number of people it takes. That means the duration reduced, the people reduced, means ultimately you're saving a lot of cost. So remember that these are the features. Okay. And I want to tell you guys, it is an open source. It is a freeware. Okay. Why say, what is the difference in between freeware and open source? Just remember, Okay. Freeware is kind of trial version. Open source is kind of source code giving it to the community. Okay. How it makes the difference? I have BlueJeans using. Now it is a freeware. Okay. It is a trial version. Does BlueJeans has provided me source code along with this free trial? No, it is just a freeware. It is just a trial version for me. They haven't released any kind of source code to me when I'm using it. So it is not an open source, it is a freeware. But Python is I can use the software free of cost, and as well as I can get the source code out of it. Means like when I download, if I want, I can download the source code of the Python. Okay, there are different programming languages evolved because of this. If you see, to work with Java, Python, what it is done is some kind of explicitly to work with more, like I can write Java code and as well as call few things in Java, and that Java code will get executed here as well. That kind of things is happened only because the existing Python code, some people have taken it and they modified the code and they released it to the market as Jython. Okay. Okay. Got it right? Guys, are you following me?
Yes, Raghav.
Everyone, it is clear?
Yes,
Everyone?
sir.
Yes.
Perfect, right? Okay. So that is the first thing what you should remember. Okay. Then coming down to high level programming languages, Python is also one among the high level programming languages alongside of C and C++. Okay. And other add-on, I mean like some other programming languages are also there. Okay. Like as you are a programmer, it is never required for you to get into low level, like machine level related things. It is not required. Okay. It is not required. The hardware provider, the vendor should be able to take care of all those things. Okay. If you are the programmer, you have to take care of only the program. If you are the creator of a new programming language itself, that time it requires for you to get into assembly related or low level related concepts. Okay. But you need not to take care of these particular things at all. If you are a programmer, you just write it. Okay. Your program, but make sure to work it more efficiently. Okay. The things, whatever you are writing during your code has to be more like kind of uh, unnecessarily you shouldn't what do you say, kind of uh, like uh, burst bursting memory related issues, type of like unnecessarily like a list. If you are putting like entire 1 million set of data, feeding it to it means like something which we cover in future, but I'm just telling it now, like feeding the program with different kind of data, like bursty data to a small set of variable where it cannot withstand that kind of things, you have to take care. Okay. Because you are a programmer. Okay. So those things you have to remember. Python is a high level programming and language. All like when you are writing the program, like automatically when you need not to think much about how the memory is allocated, how a variable where it fits when it is running, all those things you need not to worry. Whereas in C and C++, you have to use the pointers in a specific way, else it will like you will be wrong, go and point to the wrong address, and then you will get some different kinds of output. So that kind of issues is not there in Python. It automatically happens inside. So everything is well managed, memory and security. Okay. So you need not to worry about anything. You have to just type, like uh, give work to your fingers what it has to be done. Okay. And Python is platform independent. This is very, very important. Okay. what is meant by platform independent? Guys, what is meant by platform? It is like I have uh, what do you say, written some program, okay, and what I have done is, okay, this will be very good for you guys if I clarify this in a different way. Sorry guys, yeah, see, mm, now consider this is a machine where all your source code is written, and as I said, once if you write the code, if all everything is working, you compile it and then you get some sort of file which is like executable file. Take it, okay, example, you consider it as exe file, okay, that is what we use, right? Anything, any program in our Windows, it should be an executable file. Example I'm giving, correct, right? The source code, whatever they have written, is converted into some exe file, correct, right? So that file we are taking and we are using it for our day-to-day purposes. Like now I launch the Blue Jeans, okay, the same way I launch the PPT, okay, all are executable files only. So some executable file is there. This particular executable file, if I take it and put it in a Linux machine, will it work? No, it doesn't work. Will I take the 64-bit exe file and put it in 32-bit? Will it work? No, absolutely it doesn't work. Heard it right? Guys, is it clear? This is important.
Yes, Rajesh.
Okay, fine. So any executable file, whichever it turns out to be specific to that particular platform. Okay, that's why what other programming languages are platform independent? Java. What it does, once it creates an executable file, okay, it's not exe file, okay, once it creates a executable file, okay, there is something called as Java runtime environment which will be installed in each and every machine. It can be a 64-bit machine, it can be a 32-bit machine, it can be a Linux machine, or it can be a Windows machine. It can be 32-bit or it can be a 64-bit. Irrespective of anything, the runtime file of Java, okay, can be used it in any sort of programming, I mean, any sort of platform. It can be a 64, 32, Windows or Linux, anything. Okay. Does it stop you? Does it requires for you to do any configuration changes when you are giving it to each and every new platform that you are trying to access? No. Correct, right? So where it will be useful? Write it once, write it once, okay? And you take that particular file, you go to the market, okay? This is a distributor of some kind of pharmaceutical company, medical store, software, uh, I mean distributor, software distributor, okay? He'll go to a machine shop where they're using Linux. He'll go give it to a hospital which they are using Solaris. Okay, and he'll, because they are implementing it in a very big server that is running on Solaris example, and they are giving it to some Windows machine at home, and they are giving it to some big office, some other big wholesale shop where they're using Windows Server. Okay, everywhere they will do is just take the file whichever, they will take just the file whichever it is there, and they will just put it over here, and all of them are asked to, all of them they are asked, hello, hello, I don't know who is it. I would request them to please be on mute. I don't know. Guys, I would request.
Someone guessed using phone.
Yes. Okay. Fine. I have muted all, I guess. All of you guys muted, I guess. Now. Okay. Right. So let me share it again, guys. Okay. So now what happens here is now they are just have to install something called as JRE, Java Runtime Environment. What it happens is you bring any this machine, whichever it has, they have developed. It can be anything. It can be 32-bit or 64-bit, or it can be a Linux, or it can be anything from whichever it has developed. They will take it and it will get converted based on this particular machine's understandable format whenever they run it. Okay. So now we don't have any issues in whichever machine it is, it will successfully get executed. Okay. This is called as write it once and without any modifications, you can run it anywhere. Okay. I don't think any of you have got any guys, is it clear for you? Is it clear for you? I think I have.
Yeah, Radha. Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. Uh, I think unmute all. I don't know how I have. Okay, let it be. Okay, fine. Not an issue. Okay. So now it is like you have come to know about what is. Okay. Irrespective of like a platform where you have written the code, you can actually write the code wherever you want. Okay, fine. Now, the next part of it, okay. Okay, how it happens? Java has got JVM, okay, to take care of it. We have PVM, okay, wherever we are running it, right? Python virtual machine, okay. It's um, like JRE, it is kind of thing, okay. Wherever you install it, when you try to run it, it will run automatically using this particular thing, okay. Now, it is portable. Example, I can give you one small example, okay. Say, I have, um, I am using some like before the pandemic started, I have started using some sort of programming. I mean, like I started using Windows machines for my programming in the sense like I have like license bought and everything. It is like from what do you say for my end user systems in my office for the developers and all, and they have installed Python in them and they started developing the code in that. Okay, and all of a sudden there was like impact because of this COVID-19, and there are decisions took by the company like we are going to start using instead of Windows, we are going to start using all open source like Linux will be using it, and instead of MS Office, we are going to use OpenOffice. This kind of decision they have taken. Now they requested you to copy the code, whatever you have written, okay? And once after like installing the Linux, you have to use the code on the Linux machine. Now, what it does is, now complete code, whatever you have written, if you have done it in C or somewhere, okay, it would have become a very big mess for you, okay. But whereas in Java or Python, okay, you don't have that issue. Why? Because especially in Python, because we are discussing about it. Once if you write the code in using particular platform. The portability means moving the code from one operating system to another operating system. Even after you moving it won't be having any kind of impact when you are reusing it. Means like when you continue your development process. Okay, it doesn't create you any sort of issues until unless just maybe some URL paths, whatever. Like that time you might be referring to some C folder, so and so location or something like that. That anyhow, if you change within the same machine, also if you move it out, that kind of minimum changes you have to take care. Okay, but apart from that, there is no significant impact on your source code itself. Like you can play around with it. Okay, you can take it. You can. It's like it's more portable than the earlier programming languages. Okay, that is called as portable. If someone asks you the features of what do you say, Python, you have to tell all these things. And one more important thing, these things you can like once if you know the simple programming program to write, right, that time you will be able to do all these things on your own, like portability, like just copying and running it on another machine. Or now I'm telling about the dynamically typed, how you can do it. I mean, like not how you, this is also one among the feature, like what is platform independent. Okay, you can take the code and actually run it anywhere. Okay, portability will deal with the source code, like moving from one location, like one operating system or one platform, 34 to 64, or one machine to another machine. That is called as source code related thing is portability. But platform independent is for the executable files. Okay, that is the thing. Okay, now dynamically typed programming language. Python is dynamically typed programming language. What is meant by dynamically typed programming language? It doesn't require for you to, okay, I just want to, okay, uh, Python, I'll just try to write it over here. Absolutely. Give me a second, guys. Python idle. Okay, not required the idle at this moment. I will just share this particular thing. Okay, guys, are you able to view this particular Python screen? If yes, I would request someone answer me that particular thing.
You can see a gray screen.
Gray screen, not this
Yeah,
particular something I'm writing. You are able to view it
no,
now?
no,
No.
only see a gray screen.
Okay, let me stop it and let me share it once again. Uh, okay. Now, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
No, this one. Whatever I'm typing.
No. Again, there is a gray screen.
Okay, I got the issue. Okay, let me just Python. I okay. There is something I don't know. I will run my Jupyter. That's better. Anaconda. Okay. I don't know. Some of the screens are not getting captured. Give me a second, guys. Just bear with me. Okay. Mhm. Let us see whether this one at least it'll come up. I'll write. Okay. I'm just hoping at least now anything. Python idle, you're able to view? Huh?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Python idle. 7.3.3.
Yeah. Shell is visible.
Okay. Okay. See, this is a Python idle. Okay. Once if you install your Python. Guys, is it required for me to explain how to install Python? No need, right? You
Yeah,
can
not
install it
required.
on your own.
No.
Okay. And I'll explain you one thing. Okay. Once if you finish your Python program installation, okay, make sure you give the proper location of your installation when you are installing. I just want to uh, tell you again this point again and again. Once when you are installing, make sure don't give the default whatever it is giving as an installation location. Give your own installation location. That should be a D drive or somewhere. Okay, if you want. Then once after giving that, then you proceed to the installation instructions. Okay, next, and you finish it. Okay, remember that location where the Python is actually installed. Okay, go to the that particular location. Okay, if you go to that location, then you have to go to the bin. Okay, in bin you will have different folders, right? Go to till bin. Okay, till copy that path, go to the environment variables and set that in the user environment variables and as well as system variable as path field. You are getting all you guys are getting my point, right? Are you any of you guys got confused? I'll be there to help you guys. If you have any issues, don't worry. Huh? Okay, fine. Now, till this extent, what we have done is we are discussing about the dynamically typed programming language. What is meant by dynamically typed programming language? Okay. C programming language, if you have to write or create a variable, okay, what we used to do, int a is equal to 10. Correct, right? This is what we used to do. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Huh? So when I do the same thing, and if I click enter, it shows me an invalid syntax because Python doesn't expect you to give some sort of, even though it turned into blue means it identified something you're telling it as integer. Okay, because the as soon as when I sent int, okay, it turned into something a highlighted color, means it understood it is something you are telling it as an integer. But when you try to assign, boss, I want this value to be an integer, when you say enter, it is it gives you a invalid syntax error. Why? Because Python is a dynamically typed programming language. And so as on when you give some variable as an input, okay, the value when it gets stored into the Python, I mean like memory, okay, it automatically get to know about what type it is. It is a int type. It is a int type. Type is an integer. Okay. Oh, is it so? Then I will say it as a something, some text. A is equal to test. Okay, that is a better way. Okay, a some text test. Okay, type of a. Okay. Oh, type of a. Okay, it is a string type. Did you mention anywhere whether it is a int type or string type? No, you haven't mentioned anywhere. That is the reason Python is a dynamically typed Programming language means you need not to give any type before any variable. It automatically understands which type of it based on the input you have given in the variable. This one clear to anyone? Everyone? Everyone?
Yes.
You're right.
Perfect. Okay. Now, guys, this is we'll just move off back to the PPT and let's finish the language fundamentals as fast as we can. Okay. This is, am I going with the right pace, right? Without any issue?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, but whereas C and Java are not dynamically typed programming language, you have to mention some sort of type in front of it. It is not dynamically typed. Okay. It is not dynamically typed. Okay. And Python is procedure oriented and as well as object oriented. How come you say procedure oriented? Because Python has adapted the features of C. You can write only the functions in a programming language. Sorry, only functions in a program, or the entire program can have only the objects without any functions. So Python is both procedure and as well as object oriented programming language. Okay, so just remember we have adapted the features from various programming languages, and whichever we want to utilize them during our based on our requirement during our project, so we will use accordingly. Okay, nothing much required over there as for discussion. Now the interesting part. Okay, Python is interpreted programming language. What is meant by interpreter? Let me share Paint. Instead of I am going there and choosing multiple types of annotations, it is not required for me. Okay, guys, stop sharing. I'll just share the new Paint. Yes, perfect. Guys, you are able to view Paint, I guess. Okay, now see, this is the code. What happens in Java? I say compile. Okay. What it does is it takes line by line compilation. Okay. And gives you the all errors that are present. Correct, right? Whatever we do compilation to check whether any errors are there or not. If no errors are there, then it will get converted into another say for example, if it is a CR OBJ file or .class file, something like that. Okay. So the lines of codes you have written here in the program, this is a program. Okay. It checks for each and every line and comes how many number of lines of code you have written in them, how many lines of code you have got errors. That particular thing you will get it here. Okay, in the errors. What you have to do to get this program to reach this particular location into an executable condition, you have to fix all the errors. Then only it will get converted into this file in this format. Remember that first point. How many steps we have? 2 steps for Java example C. First is like compilation. Second one is running. Execution. Okay. This is. So all the lines of code will be syntactically checked, and if any errors are in that particular program, it will be displayed. Okay, you will be like clearing one by one error. Okay, you check. Now it is only 5. Now it is only 4. 3 errors, 2 errors, then no errors, then you will be very happy that you will see that now you can run the program. Okay, now that is what it happens. This is the compilation. There is some another set of kind of execution called as interpreter. Okay. What it does is here also you have the lines of code. Okay, number of lines of code you have. Okay, what it does, it also starts executing the each and line or every line of the code. But what does it do is when it executes, it performs two tasks at the same time. This particular task and this error checking task at the same instance of time. First, compile, and second, run at the same instance of time. But whereas here, first this entire task has to be finished as a first step, and then it will go to the second step of execution. But here, for every line of code, these two things happens at the same instance of time. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of it? Okay. Here, until unless I fix all the errors that are in this particular program, I won't be able to see what is the status of my code, execution status of my code. But whereas here, when I am writing the program, say for example, the first 50 lines of code, whichever you have written is absolutely without any errors. Each and every line, first line you have executed, it will be producing some output and displaying on the screen at the same instance of time. Second line also without any issue executes and displays output on the screen. On the 58th thing, you got some error there, that particular error will be displayed and doesn't show or execute or compile anything beyond that particular thing. Means you will have the information what is error till the extent where the first error is encountered. Where the first error is encountered. Here the first error is encountered, that particular error will be displayed, and previous to all executed steps will be displayed, like the output will be displayed in your information or here. Okay. So now you see the same thing I would like. So how many steps you have? Here you have only one step, both execution and running at the same instance of time. This is called as interpreter. Okay. So the difference here is two steps and here is only one step. Okay. For small programming languages, this will be very useful, small programs, but very big programs, this will be very useful. Okay. Now, why we have to adapt for interpreter? Why can't we go for this? Okay. So you are developing a lot of tools. Okay. And you have very good clarity on what you are writing. Okay. And when you are having like less time to to create a sample projects or something like that. Okay. So for that particular purpose, we use interpreter-based programming languages like Perl, Python. Okay. So Perl and Python work in the same fashion. Okay. Python is like more predominantly used. Okay. So the first line of code, if it takes into the execution, then compiles and executes at the same instance of time. So without any issues, if the line is perfectly syntactically written, then it will display the output, okay, on the screen and goes to the next line. And if it is also having without any issues, then it will also be displayed. And then it will goes to the third line and it will be displayed. If at the exact point where the error is observed, only that particular error is displayed and it stops the execution from there. Even though if you have 1 lakh lines from there onwards, it doesn't proceed until unless you fix this error. Then it will once if you fix the error and recompile it and again all the lines of code, it will execute right from the beginning. Okay. So now what happens here, every time when you run the code, okay, every line of code will be again compiled and executed. So it is a time consuming, time constrained. There is no time constraint. Like you have an advantage of time constraint. Okay. So now interpreter and the compilation. Interpretation is nothing but like performing compilation and execution at the same instance of time. Whereas other like compilation and execution happens as a two steps. Okay. Now all the errors are displayed at the same instance of time when you compile it in the first case, this particular C and Java. But whereas in Python, the first line of encountered error only be displayed. Okay. Guys, everyone, are you able to understand this thing? What is meant by compiling and what is meant by interpreting? Sagar, you understood?
It's a clear for me, Raghav.
Yeah, okay. And
Yes, Raghav.
yeah, Harsha, you?
Yes, yes, I understood.
Okay, you
So,
people might,
Raghav,
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah,
doubt here.
yeah,
Suppose in the third line there is an error,
yes.
and in my one, I want to know whether my 150th line code is proper or not. I won't get
Okay.
to know that, right? Because it's
You
just
will never
started
come
with
to know
third
about it
line.
until you fix the third line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that is the thing. Okay, because your source code is executed till that extent, not beyond that.
Okay.
Okay, Teja, you have any queries till now?
I'm clear with that, Raghav. I don't have
For
any issues.
any issues? Okay. So other guys, Vikrant, any questions if you have, you can ask me now.
No, Raghav.
No, everything is clear, right? Okay, fine. That is the thing. Okay. Now just let me get back to the remaining part of the slides. Okay. We have to stamp this, go here, select PPT. Fantastic, guys. You are getting PPT now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Raghav.
Okay, fine. So now you got the Python is an interpreter language. Okay. So one thing you have to remember, um, first you have to, whichever the line you face the error, that line you have to fix it to further know like what other issues you have within your program. Okay. If your program doesn't have any issues, everything gets executed. Okay. But don't think that since I said it will be little slower means it will be like for the current processors, it is negligible. Means like it's like fractions and fractions of seconds. Okay. It can be easily negligible. Okay. So don't think like you can say it as a very big advantage or something like that if someone asks to you in any interview. Okay. Then, as I said, it is an extensible language where, as I said, like you can use Python language uh, like other programming languages within the Python. Okay, if I want to write some C program within the Python, there is a flexibility where you can write and execute it from here itself within the Python. People are doing that. Okay, that's not an issue at all because you have the modules to take care of them. Okay, that is called as extensibility. If someone asks you, can you tell me, because their project might be specifically they wanted to have some program to be executed in their program written in other language to be executed along with the Python within the same line of Python code. So that time they might ask what is meant by extensibility. You can just give them that I haven't worked on it, but what I know is like Python gives leverage of like running other programming source codes in the in between the Python lines of code itself. So that is called that is a feature of Python. Till that extent, if you say also, they'll be very much satisfied. Okay, and embedded. Okay, the same way in vice versa, you can actually, like Java and others have given flexibility of using the Python in their programming language. Okay, that is called as embedded feature. Okay, just remember that. Uh, Extensibility is within the program. Embedded means like Python getting embedded in another programming language. Okay, that's and Python has got so many libraries. As I said, you don't need to worry about it, like sci-fi, scientific related things, machine learning related things. Like if you want to Excel, if you want to SharePoint to be accessed using Python, if you want any you name it, you'll have it in Python. Anything you can do it in Python. For that, what you need libraries. People create the libraries and they put it over there in Python. You have to just go there and pull it. If you want, you can go to GitHub. You just whatever you want. If you want a specific Python, I want something. Yes, you can get it. Okay, and I'll give you some other features, some websites names where you can actually like go and get some libraries information also, whichever. Like you can search, like if you want SharePoint related thing, you give SharePoint related thing, you will get all the SharePoint supporting libraries over there, Python libraries over there. You can directly import it and you can install it and you can use it. Okay, that limitations of Python, not so big limitations, but you can just say it as like uh, this thing are not something. Performance and speed, as I said, it's not significant, but yes, you can. Okay, and for me, the second version is really the main thing. There was something kind of two different kinds of versions. It's not I'm saying about 3.8 or 3.7 or something like that. It's like 2.7 till 2.7 there was completely a different way of writing the Python program. After 2.7 there is something different way of writing the programs. The new programming, I mean like the new version, we say it as 3.x means 3.1, 3.2, like 3.8, something like that. But earlier versions we say like 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.7. Okay, but predominantly what we have seen is the adaptation to the 3 dot is more necessity now, as they have stopped. There are no support for 2.7 anymore. Means even if you write any program using 2.7 standards, programming standards, it will be waste. There is nothing much from the features wise, but the syntactical wise, there are some changes happened. You can check what are the really changes happened in or the internet, which are not like now. I mean, like it's not useful for us also to now to discuss them. But what I suggest you is you install 3.x and start using them. Okay, that is the thing. Okay. Now there are different type, like I just said, since it is an open source, people took the code, okay, and they have modified and released as a new Python version into the market. For C related things, C Python, for Java, JPython, for C Sharp, .NET, for all those things, Iron Python, okay, for Ruby and all those things, Ruby Python. And now the hottest, all Jupyter Notebook, anything, whatever you use, okay, for big data and all, for machine learning, they use Anaconda, okay. So this is like one of the hot kind of thing, okay. So different kinds of, all are coming from the same source code only. It's not anything different. The Python 1.0 is like, even though 1991 it released officially, but the official as 1.0 version is released in 1994. Okay, but till 10 years the adoption was so slow. The 2.0, it was like till 1.0 to 2.0, people were not adapting to a pace that, like, even though so many features were there, they were not adapting to it because there was one limitation. From when we started using at least some sort of internet, we started using it after 2000, correct, right? At least 2G came into the picture, then slowly we started 2004, especially in India, 2005, 2006, we started adapting to the internet, correct, right? The same way, 5 years lag. We are falling behind if you compare with other countries when it comes to the internet usage. So 2000 or 98, 99 is the time where they started adapting it. So globally recognizing Python as one of the wonderful language, and they started implementing projects on them, and the contribution towards that community has also grown to an extent where it has become a sustainable solution for any kind of requirements. Okay, so 3.x 2008 they have come up. Now there is something wrong with the existing version. Let's rewind it and we'll make it something more working. There is not much changes they have done from the feature wise, but the syntactical wise to make it more robust, they have done some modifications. But if you learn Python 3, that is good enough. No one will ask, not even a single question on 2.x now, because it is not. Even if you go to Python, only the chance you have asking the difference is if they are having some scripts in 2.x and they are migrating it to 3.x. So for that reason, it's better for you to just know the difference by going through the internet. Okay. Maybe if I would have any slide, I would have actually told. So guys, we will just have some glance on like what is identifiers and these things now. Okay. So any name you give for writing anything. Okay. So for example, if you go here, you have given some name to this class, that is hello. Correct, right? Okay. So anything, whatever the naming conventions we give are called as identifiers. Don't think identifiers means something like specific thing. Just name whatever you give. Okay. I give a is equal to 10. Okay. A is the name. Okay. This is a function def. Okay. Test1 is the name. Function name I have written it as they say it as definition, but for function, how you can write is like def function. Def def. Okay. Function definition we say, right? That is what def. Okay. Def test, you have to put it in bracket. Okay. So open and close bracket. So test1 is a name of the function. Okay. Which has got some statement pass. Forget about it. It has nothing to do with the thing. Okay. So it's only you remember def test1 is the name of the function. Class name I have given it as A, capital A I have given it as. Okay. So identifier is anything you give from your side. You give some name personally. Okay. Our parents gave us the name. Okay. Myself Raghav. Okay. The same way. Other Sagar, Vikrant, Tej, and someone ST, someone Harsha. Okay. So what I say is the name itself, whichever we are giving it to some anything, it can be a variable to a function or a class or anything, we say it as identifier. Okay. Just remember that. So rules of the identifier. Here are some rules what you have to mention. Okay. First thing, it should be, it can be like it you can use anything, but what you shouldn't do is, okay, you shouldn't put, just a minute, where it went. Yeah, just a minute. I will, if you know it practically, then you will come to know it. Yeah, just a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Where it went? Share. Stop. Share. Where it went? Where it went? Guys, you're able to view my Python interpreter screen?
Yes.
Okay. See here. I have done a mistake in the PPT. That valid identifier I have written instead of unvalid. I have vice versa I have given. If you see, I have used special characters within the name. Okay. So it throwed me the error. Correct, right? Okay. See, if I give some name, if I say something, it will properly accept it. if I give any special characters, okay, and say as some name, and if I give, it throws me the syntax error. Means you shouldn't use, when you are using any identifier, you don't give any special characters in the name. Okay. Then if I give any number at the beginning of the identifier, okay, if I'm writing any name, okay, say for example def, okay, test I'm giving, okay, pass, okay, okay, no issues for me. I've successfully written a test function, okay. And now if I say 1 2 3, okay, and a, and if I assign some value 10, it will give me syntax error. Same way for any function also, if I say any number in front of its name, identifier name starts with some number, okay, hello, okay, it gives me the syntax error, okay. Same way class, okay, class A, okay, if I say, it will give me the syntactical error. What you have to remember is anything identifier, okay, if it tries to start with a number, or if any identifier having a special character in it, okay, are invalid identifiers, okay, are invalid identifiers, okay. And these identifiers are case sensitive. Just remember, if you say capital A is equal to 10, capital B is equal to 20, but if you try to access A like this, whichever it is belongs to that, what do you say, A is equal to test, which we have written at the beginning, where somewhere we have written here, this one will come, but not this particular 10 values. So remember that it is case sensitive. Very small mistakes we do, just remember they are case sensitive. That's it. Nothing else required for you to remember over here. Okay. Only remember A is equal to whatever you have given, the name, whatever you give, they are case sensitive. Okay. Just remember that. Now, I just want to show you one more, what do you say? Yeah, that's it. Nothing else. The identifiers, you don't have nothing to remember, but I just want to show you something more interesting before we end the class. Okay. As I have opened this, identifiers is only this much. Just remember that some rules and regulations you remember. You shouldn't start with a number, and you shouldn't include any special characters in them, in the identifier name, whatever you give. It's like variable name, whatever you give. It can be a function name, whatever you give. It can be a class name, whatever you give. Make sure they follow these rules. Okay. Now, guys, I'm telling one thing you remember, everything in Python is an object. Everything in Python is an object. It is a class entity. Anything is a class entity. Don't get confused what it is. Okay. Object means end of the class. I'll take another maximum 15 minutes, and then I'll open you guys for questions. But this, it will be very interesting for you, I hope. Guys, you are able to see my paint. Are you able to see my paint?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes, Raghav.
Okay, fine. See this thing. What happens is, this is our machine. Just remember this properly, so that any time, any program when you execute, this is the machine. This machine, what it is having? It is having the hard disk, correct, right? Hard disk or SSD means our memory. Like my hard disk size is 500 GB. Your hard disk size might be 10 GB, Correct, right? Okay. So whatever the programs you install, all like your C drive, okay, your C drive is this C colon, okay, your D drive is this D colon, okay. In this, you have the operating system, correct, right? Installed in C drive, operating system, okay, and some other space is also there, like all your programming files, all your now Zoom, whatever you installed, or MS Office, everything is also there here, okay. I'm just giving the bigger context how a program works, okay, for you guys. Now, as soon as when you launch the operating system, first system gets booted, okay. Now, what are the things that get loaded into the memory? Okay, system gets booted. System gets booted. Now, this is a booting space example. Where this it will be? That's why you have something called as RAM. When you powered on your C program files, the disk, whatever it is there, your BIOS, there is some kind of motherboard, right? In that it is written in such a way that if any time when you switch on the system, the operating system is available in so and so interface. Means like interface means you are connected a cable, right, to the motherboard. It is connected over there. Okay, first go there. After going there, check for so and so address. It is the address is written here. So it will go and check the Windows address here. So Windows will start getting loaded from here too, and it will be putting it on the RAM. Okay, all your RAM. So that's why all your booting screen, slowly you will see the system. All your, what do you say, your home screen, because all that information is available on the RAM. So that is the reason you are able to see it. Okay. If you have only, say for example, 1 GB of RAM, okay, then you say like system is slow. Okay. If you have 4 GB of RAM, okay, you can say system is fast. How do you say that? Because if your operating system is 5 GB, okay, even if you are loading it into the RAM, okay, how much RAM storage? It is only 4 GB of your system. It can load only 4 GB of operating system. Then remaining 1 GB it will be still in the your hard disk, your C drive. As and when you try to access some information which is required for this, say for example, all your songs, whatever you have, or some programming file, whatever you have, is available in this remaining 1 GB of things. So it will have to clear this memory and bring that sum of information over here, and it has to put, and then it has to send it for processing. So the more the RAM, the more the access. This is RAM is the intermediary memory where all your system related programs are getting executed. Remember that. Okay, all your system related files where they will come for execution, RAM. Okay, now why I'm telling that entire story, I'll new. Okay, my system has got two parts. Okay, and I have something called as python.py. Some Python program is there in my hard disk along with some operating system. Operating system has loaded. Now what happens is when I click Python dot, if I launch python.exe, means Python executable file, if I click on it, or if I launch Python idle, first what it will do is it will load entire Python into RAM. Okay, you will have operating system, you will have other programs that are running, some system supporting programs are like now I am running the BlueJeans that also running over here. Like that same way, Python will also come and join here. Here Python in the RAM. Okay. Now Python it launched. Okay. When you click on that, it launched. Okay. Now what it does is, okay, first it has to grab this particular file. When you launch it, first it loads the Python, entire Python, and then this particular file will be brought for execution. Okay. And it will be executed line by line as an instruction. It reads and gives it to the processor. Okay. And executes and produces whatever you have told here on your screen. The processor will give it to the output on the screen. Okay. Don't think that the program is here and it is getting executed in your hard disk. No, never. Anything will have to come to the memory, and then memory has to give it to the processor, and processor will execute and gives you the output over here. Now the main important point. Okay. Here, the memory, whatever you have here for each program, when you bring here, it will be dynamically allocated. Remember that. Okay. The Python has got all Python supporting files will have some space. For the program what you are running also requires some space, right? That will also get stored here. These things are called as objects. These things are also called as objects, whatever here. Everything in Python is nothing but an object. Okay. Now we will tell you what is it. Okay. Guys, just see this. Okay. Now, A is equal to 10. I have assigned over here. Okay. A is equal to 10 I have assigned. Now where it is not in my hard disk. Everything is there in the RAM. Okay. How do I come to know? Because whatever I have given, okay, is allotted with a temporary ID location in the Python. Okay, by Python in the RAM. Okay, that address is this one. Okay, that address is this one. This is the object reference. Okay, A is an object name and it stored a value 10 and its reference ID is this. Object reference ID is this. Just remember till here for today. Nothing else required. Everything in Python, now you should be able to know that it is an object. Okay. Whatever the program, entire C folder, I mean like program Python folder, which are all required for us to run the program, right? All those files will also get loaded, okay, into the RAM, and as well as the executable file which you request to execute, like .py file to execute. If in case here we are running this in idle, but if you have .py file, when you run that particular file, first it will check first line, A is equal to 10. Oh, I have to create A is equal to as a reference object now. Okay. And it will store it as an object and it will have some ID. Anytime if someone tries to access A, since it has known that A is stored in so and so reference name, reference ID. So it will go and get that value and display it to you. This is called as object reference. Okay. Now, that is the reason. One more thing I have told you guys to remember. Okay. Everything is in Python is an object, and RAM plays a crucial role in handling this. Okay. If I turn off this particular system and if I reboot it, okay, all the execution status whichever I have done is lost. It will be applicable for anything, but for your learning as a first time programming language, how it works, that is the reason I just want to explain you guys. Okay, so then it will be like more clearer for you uh, when you are writing the program, like how you can actually manage your program entities. Okay, so hope you understood till this. Okay, if you have any queries, I'll open for a discussion for another 5-10 minutes. We'll wrap it up tomorrow, same time we will meet and proceed further. And I'll be allowing only what do you say, this much people from tomorrow onwards. How many people are there? I don't know. Okay. I have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't allow anyone else until unless explicit request they will put us. I guess I request whoever with the guest name, I would request them to personally ping me so that I can add them to my contact list, because I don't want let anyone to freely eat this stuff. Okay. I think couple of guys, you guys are on what do you say, on without any name. Okay, it shows as guest. I think Harsha is on guest, I guess, and another, I don't know, one more person. Okay, only few people are allow. Let us see whom and all we can allow. Okay, guys, any questions for you? Any questions? At least last part you understood?
Yeah, Raghav.
Yeah,
Yeah, hi. Vikrant here.
yeah, Vikrant. Last
Yes,
part you
good
understood?
afternoon. Yeah,
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 good
I've
afternoon.
understood last part. Yes.
Yeah. Any
Just
questions?
wanted to ask, I mean, this all went perfectly actually
Yeah,
when I was from start to end. But I
yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to ask, what all are we going to cover in next session? I mean, are we going to the
Okay.
advanced version or something? Because
See, let me check. Let me share our. Give me a second, guys.
Mhm.
Give me a second. Um, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to introduce. I'm Vikrant from Nasik.
Oh, no issues, no issues. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
yeah.
I run a software company named
Oh,
UVK Technologies Private Limited and UV Knowledge
okay.
Link Private Limited.
Okay, super. Let me share you the course content. And let me share you the course. I have shared with whom, I don't know. Let me just once again put the stuff over here.
Okay.
Just okay.
In case if you could not find, I've
No,
shared
no,
my
no, no.
email
Yeah,
ID.
yeah. You can put it. Not an issue. Oh, got it, man. Okay. See, installation I'm not covering from that list. I have excluded it because we are all grown up. We should be able to at least
Right, right,
fix the
right,
installation
right,
things.
right.
Okay. So some people they'll ask for it, but I don't want to do that. Okay. So that is the reason. Okay, let me put it in the group. Python training. Yes, okay. And okay, share it. Yeah, let me share it. Yes. Okay, now you're able to see the group, right? Okay. See, uh, first we'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
starting like we have already like the features and all we have covered, correct, right, today?
correct, correct, correct,
And
correct.
we have covered the execution methods, how we do it in Python, correct, right? Okay, and I strongly request everyone to include the Python variable in your environment so that from whichever location, you will be able to execute the Python. That's the only request. Okay. This is just a description on like industries where you use, as I said, right from like web development, machine learning, everywhere, those things. Okay. Job trends and all, it is for only still the people who are not mature enough. I'll be personally discussing with them what are the job opportunities will be there for them. And like
Okay.
apart from that, as I said, we'll be having some sort of installation of Jupyter Notebook. If you do it by today or tomorrow, okay, then you will be able to access your Python code using the Jupyter Notebook. Okay, Anaconda, if you install, and for that, after installing your Anaconda, right, just you have to go and search Navigator. Okay, Anaconda Navigator, you will get it. From there,
Okay.
you just select the Jupyter Notebook. So it will automatically take you to the browser, and there you have to just create a new notebook and start using the Jupyter on. Like it will be more useful to share the code in between you and me. Okay,
Okay.
so that is the thing. So then we'll get into slowly. Now identifiers have started it. Okay, I have explained you about the identifiers.
All right.
And data types will be getting in and different types of numbers. See, whichever it is, like if you are very strong from here to here, okay, I don't even require OOPS concepts. Okay, till here, I won't be giving the real-time project here. Okay, that is other constraint for me. Okay, I won't be giving real-time project here, but that is like something for different. But till here, file handling, right? Okay.
Okay.
Even if it doesn't, I mean, like include it over here. Okay, till here we should be able to go as a cakewalk. Then later we'll see like the remaining aspects, like complete deep dive into the as a matter of fact, I will be covering the regex also here. Okay, uh, before this particular thing, after file handling. Okay, immediately. But apart from that, remaining things we will be uh, like once after finishing it, based on like the number of people they are actually showing interest and the pace what we are going, we'll be looking into the other aspects like Lambda or logging in Python, multi-threading, all
Okay.
these
Okay.
units. But the core thing for anyone to start it, till before I highlighted, right? If you are very good at this, these things are nothing in front of them. Just you can finish it on your own. But I will give you the core thing, like whatever it is required for you to kick off. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I'll be
Okay.
like, I mean, like it'll be like more of, what do you say? Um, it'll be more of kind of, uh, it's not like traditional way of uh, teaching. It'll be more of kind of I'll be taking some sort of generic explanations I will give where it gets for you to understand. You have to correlate with your real world objects when you want to feed some concepts in your mind. So that way I'll be trying to teach. I don't know whether how much you people are consuming it, but I feel like that will be the best way for people to, like, if I give the example of like how your program runs using this sort of RAM example. Okay, like if your program is not properly executing, means if like some sort of RAM kind of example, if you put every program has to come to RAM for execution, then it will go to the instruction execution at the processor side. Okay, so you will be having, okay, so some sort of like objects are created in the RAM, not in the hard disk. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
everything is at the runtime. So runtime, I haven't used it. I'll be using it in the from the next class, not to get, I mean, not to confuse the people. I just want to give like your program runs over there in the RAM. That only that extent it is required for you to understand till now. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so that is what my intention. Like, just want to make sure you guys have cakewalk kind of learning thing. But until if you practice it, it is not a real cakewalk.
Okay.
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 Okay. Any other questions you have?
Yeah, Raghav,
Yeah.
one more thing. Is there any chance that we are going to take care of any image processing sort of thing, or are we going to discuss
See,
on
that
that?
is yeah, that is what. See, those are all like at the beginning itself. I have clearly told. Okay, we are not dealing with any project specific related requirement discussion. The
Okay.
beginning, you are
Okay.
there in the beginning of the class. I think I don't think you are there.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Uh,
I
yeah,
was not there actually. I joined
yeah.
15 minutes
Tej,
late.
Tej Sagar. I did this. I said that same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have the. See, what happens is it all together becomes a specialization course. Correct, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So see, here it is a core Python course. Okay. But
Right.
what I
Right.
suggest is if you start with this, okay, maybe like this is the first step for me. Some people are advanced, some people are not advanced, but it is predominantly for the people who are having very much basics. But I can help you out in giving the material that are like where you can refer that kind of content. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. That would be great.
That you don't worry about that. That kind of help anyhow
Okay.
it will be there. Don't worry
Okay.
about that. But I won't be able to help you out in like explaining them, but
No issue.
referring.
No.
But once if you reach to certain extent, right? So
Mhm.
if you are a newbie or like want to first start up with the basics, then it is the right thing. Already you know the few concepts, then yes, it is like I can refer you few material like
Okay.
the image processing and all are uh, like comparisons. I know kind of deep learning kind of like like image processing it is required for you, I guess.
Right.
Correct, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I got
Right.
it. Yeah. So that
In
that
that
is
time,
totally
is it okay if I directly contact you? I mean, is that okay if I just drop you message directly?
yeah, you can just drop me a message for now. Okay, I would
Mhm.
request because in the sense like directly you can contact me or the chat, not
Mhm.
an issue at all. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
To be frank, I get only these 2 days. If I
Okay.
get
Okay.
into
Okay.
some other requirement, right? Okay,
Right.
so then I'll be, I will not be in a position to spend enough time
Sure.
where
Sure. Sure.
the personal
Sure.
time. Yeah, so that is
Sure.
what.
Sure. Raghav. No issue. No issue. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Raghav.
but
Thank
I'll be there to help you out. Don't worry
you.
about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay,
Always.
you
Always.
just
That
drop
much
me a
will do.
message. Yeah, you just drop me a message. I'll just maybe it might be a little late to respond you back, but at any
No
cost,
issue.
I'll be there to help you out.
No issue. No issue, Raghav.
Okay,
No issue.
don't worry
Thank you
about
so
that.
much. Yes.
Okay, then Teja, Sagar, Harsha, any questions for you guys? Any even if it is like Harsha, anything like what is a career path? Anything such thing? You just you can ask me. Not an issue. Teja, any questions if you have? Sagar, anything?
No
No,
questions,
Raghav.
Raghav.
I think today's class is very clear for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very clear,
I
Raghav.
would request every one of you to just ping me. Okay, for tomorrow I will try to like see if any people if they want to join they can join it. Maximum 5 to 10 people. Okay, maximum. Okay, let us see by tomorrow if they are not coming also not. I mean like they are already started pinging me for the content and all others personally like whether how it is and where it is some sort of okay. So I haven't responded to them. Many of them are personally pinging me now. It's waste of time for me as well now to respond to those messages. Let us see tomorrow. If we have maximum 5 to 10 people, not beyond that, we'll try to. I thought like if it is more, it will be more useful. But seeing like this particular thing, if you have more people, less people, we'll have better coverage on everyone's requirement, like how Vikrant has actually posted some his own requests, so I'll be able to provide him some sort of content which is more useful for him to further proceed his the work getting done or something like that. Okay, okay, guys. I hope you guys understood. I mean, like this, whatever the fundamentals we have started, you guys have understood it, and the class is clear, I hope. So let us see today. I'll be posting the video over here for today, and tomorrow I'll be posting it in public. Okay. Um, then after that we'll see. Okay. Bye, guys. Take care.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye,
Raghav.
Raghav.
Bye.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Tomorrow, same time. Okay. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Raghav.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.